Hey everybody, this is Tim. I hope you all doing well again. It's 11:30 in the morning. Um, I wanted to spend some more time going over the severe weather chances today, um, the flooding risk today, and the future radar for today as storms come through different areas. As you can see here, we have today's categorical severe risk. One area up here, in the middle of the country and along the mid-Atlantic coast. um, so what does this mean here? We have a 2% tornado risk in these areas. You can see the the flood. This is discussed for heavy rainfall. In the middle of that, you have a 2% risk of in the yellow areas of winds exceeding 50 miles an hour within 25 miles of a point, and then hail and 10% along the coming off the mountains, the high terrain of Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, which is not uncommon this time of year, with a hatch risk, which that means a 10% chance of over 2 inch or 15% hail risk. Anyway, 10% significant hail risk. You see here, 15%, 10% significant, 15% hail risk, 5% hail risk in the Brown, and small 5% hail risk in Virginia. Um, so when we look at the upper level pattern, what does that look like? And here's a different, is the SPC website showing the same thing. So what's the other upper pattern look like today? Let's look at the mid levels. We'll go to the short range guidance here. Charles Eagle has us to go 48 hours out. You can see at 500 millibars, which is basically halfway up to the atmosphere. You have some perturbations in the flow moving through. Midwest. You can see some increased winds on the boundary between high pressure, a stronger pressure gradient, and the jet stream to the north. And you have a little bit of kinks in the flow here moving through. And you can see here what's happening. You see the increased wind values in the different areas where I'm thinking is there are going to be stronger winds, hail, some increased lift as a result of these different perturbations in the flow coming through. So what does it look like as far as future radar goes? I just wanted to go about 12, 18 hours out because this is just for today. Severe weather. Let's go 18 hours out. There's a lot of convection ongoing right now in Illinois, Iowa. As the day goes on, that area will shift east. And of course, you see some enhanced convection in the area that they highlighted this afternoon. and the storm's coming off the front range of the Rockies, and some enhanced. You can see it's hard to see here, but the helicity values are high enough that it looks like those dots on there. So you have a pretty strong flow in these areas here, and up into North Dakota. We'll have some increased convection going further east. As far as the winds go associated with these, let's take a look. See pretty strong winds all on the front range. That's on hour 18. Move through in time. See the storms moving through. Some 50, 60 mile an hour winds are possible as those storms migrate east. As far as severe weather goes, let's look at the updraft helicity values, which help us determine whether or not there's going to be tornadoes in an area. Not overly impressive, but enough where there could be some tornadoes in these areas. Go through bulk shear, quite a bit of shear from the 0 to 1 kilometer with lowest levels, 0 to 6 kilometer, quite a bit more shear. And the storm relative helicity values really tell us the story here. Anything over, let's just say, 100 meters square per second square, that's pretty high values, and and we're talking 0 to 3 kilometers storm helicity off the charts here, 700. That seems a little bit overdone, but anywhere you have those values above, say 150, 0 to 3 kilometers storm helicity above 150, you got a chance for tornadoes. Of course, the higher numbers above 450 lend a possibility of really strong tornadoes, but if I take a sounding from here, it shows severe. You see the storm helicity value is pretty high here. Go back in time. Let's go back to hour 0. It's showing marginal severe as we go through time. In those areas where we had the biggest storm relative helicity values, you can see the shear in the atmosphere is pretty low right here at this point in time. But what you can see, if you look at the SQT, the lapse rates are pretty high here, and there's a big difference between the forecast temp and the dew point. And if the dew point spread is usually, if it's greater than 20 degrees, it's going to be hard to get surface-based convection going on. And what could happen, you go over time, you see the surface dew points are increasing some, and the Cape values, which is the energy in atmosphere, is still pretty skinny, and the 3 Cape, which is the 0 to 3 kilometer Cape, is pretty small as well at this point. You can see over time, when you got the LCL and LFC so far apart, it's also hard to get surface-based convection. You get the lowest lifted condensation level, level of free convection, and there's a big difference between it. It's hard for surface-based convection to get going. If they're right on top of each other and low, then you have a better chance for surface-based, which would lend to more likely to have tornadoes. And another thing you look for, you have the storm resiliency values here. You have looping photographs, which would lend to, stronger storms. But the problem is, at this point, you have very elevated CAPE, convective available potential energy. Even with those values that large, it's going to be hard to get surface-based convection going. Again, surface-based, when I talk about that, it helps. You have to have a surface-based convection to get tornadoes almost every time. If you don't have that, then it's likely not going to have tornadoes. You see how the photographs look more favorable, but the problem is now you have very limited chance of tornadoes. So all the parameters don't line up here. If you go back to the SPC, let's see where it thinks tornadoes are more likely. We can go down to, say, another area, like in the middle of the country here, and see what the SQT looks like. Say around here, with high storm relative helicity values later in the day. See how it's showing marginal tornado values. Pretty long photographs, but not a lot of curvature. Go back in time here. So definitely more favorable conditions for tornadoes. The photographs are still pretty straight at this point, and you could probably get some weak tornadoes, but in this case, I think the tornadoes might be more likely in this area given the LCL and LFC being closer to each other. If we go back in time, I know I'm going backwards here, sorry, but we'll go back to 0. Let's go forward in time some. You have marginal severe, storm relativity values increasing. So your 3 CAPE, and your CAPE in general is a lot higher here, even though your photographs are straight, which is more likely to lead to high winds and hail. And with the steep left rates, above 6 degrees Celsius per kilometer is anything above that is dry adiabatic lapse rates, which is a lot more favorable, especially for hail and things like that. See, the LFC and LCL are closer together here, and now you have this algorithm that deals with these QTs, tries to determine, based on certain values, what a tornado intensity could be. So these little tables down here in the middle is, probably the most likely on the scale here. So you have EF0, EF1, EF2, low end EF3 possibly. So I would venture to say in this area, you have more chance of somewhat stronger tornadoes. Given the Cape, three Cape, and the only limiting factor here is relatively straight photographs. Um, I don't. It doesn't seem like it improves, although you get some more curvature there. Not a heck of a lot of low level shear here. There is some significant turning, but not a lot of speed difference between the mid and low and mid levels, upper levels here until you get way up there. That seems to improve some over time. Still relatively straight. Again, the biggest threat is highlighted by SPC is high winds. Anyway, for the southeast, I'm going to go drill down real quick here and kind of go through what convection might be moving through today. We've got some storms possibly forming in the northwest, and kind of fizzling out. So really, if anything does develop, it'll be spotty, isolated today, the southeast. Anyway, I hope that helped some people, and if you have any questions, just let me know. All right, so here's the excessive rainfall outlook for today. A large slight risk over the middle part of the country, Iowa, Illinois, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland. A large marginal risk in encompassing most of the eastern part of the U.S., a few exceptions here. And down into the desert southwest, the front range of the Rockies, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota. Here's where that boundary is. Excuse me, keep clearing my throat. Allergies. If you look on the satellite picture, you can see where most convection is ongoing right now. And if we look at the total rainfall in this area, what's occurred up till now, not too excessive, maybe 2 or 3 inches of rain so far. So I don't see any flash. Let's see if there's any flash flood warnings. Yeah, we have some flash flood warnings ongoing and river flooding. It's like flood watch, flood warning, special weather statement. So a flood warning. So not anything terrible, but just got to keep our eye on this stuff. That's where we are today. So in the coming days, what's the outlook look like? Really over the same area tomorrow. And then North Dakota. And then a large marginal risk along the East Coast and the front range of the Rockies, South Dakota, North Dakota, parts of Montana, Nebraska, western Kansas, western Texas. Thankfully, nothing going on in Texas. So that's the flood risk for the coming days. If we go to day 4, we talked about in my tropical video about the tropical moisture possibly being in this area. That's probably why this natural risk is there. Given that we haven't had a lot of precip lately, it's probably not that big of a risk, but and then this area shifts south into Florida again, marginal risk. So hopefully the flooding risk will decrease over time. Down in the southeast, it really depends where these heaviest rain sets up. But for right now, that's the outlook. Anyway, I hope you have a good day, and Hope this video helps people. Thanks. Bye.